The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between the stars. It was bigger than most cities and home to thousands of different alien species. Today, the station buzzed with worry and fear. The Galactic Trade Alliance had called an emergency meeting, and everyone knew why. Ambassador Zeeth Kar stood at the center of the great council chamber. His blue skin looked darker than usual, and his 4 eyes showed deep concern. The tall alien from the Vorthan Empire spoke in a voice that echoed through the room. "Fellow council members," Zeeth Kar began, "we face a threat that grows stronger each day. The Crimson Void Raiders have struck again. 3 more merchant ships destroyed. 200 crew members missing, probably dead or worse." The chamber filled with worried sounds from dozens of different species. The crystalline Zephyrians made tinkling noises like broken glass. The insect-like Klaxons clicked their mandibles rapidly. Even the peaceful Deltans, who rarely showed emotion, swayed nervously on their tentacles. "In the past 6 months," Zeeth Kar continued, "these raiders have attacked 47 ships. They show no mercy. They take what they want and destroy everything. Else, no one who meets them lives to tell the story." A massive Borvek delegate, his rocky skin scarred from many battles, stood up. "What do we know about these raiders?" "They are led by a Skarn warlord named Vexthul," Zeeth Kar replied. "His ship is called the Devourer, and it lives up to its name. The raiders use fast attack ships to overwhelm their targets. They strike without warning and leave no survivors." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the Skarn were dangerous warriors. They came from a harsh world where only the strongest survived. Vexthul was said to be the most brutal of them all. "But we have a solution," Zeeth Kar said. "Every civilized species must follow the new escort protocol. No merchant ship travels alone through dangerous space. Military vessels will protect all. Trade routes." The council members nodded in agreement. This made sense. The Vorthans had powerful battle cruisers. The Zephyrians used energy-shielded frigates that could deflect most weapons. The Klaxons deployed swarms of small fighters that could overwhelm any attacker. "This brings us to a problem," Zeeth Kar continued. "The humans refuse to follow this protocol." A murmur ran through the chamber. The humans were the newest members of the Galactic Trade Alliance. They had joined only 5 years ago, and many species still did not understand them. "Their merchant captain, Jake Morrison, has filed another flight plan," Zeeth Kar said. "He plans to take his cargo ship through the most dangerous sector of raider territory, alone, with no escort." The Borvik delegate shook his massive head. "These humans are either very brave or very stupid." "Perhaps both," said a Zephyrian representative, her crystal body flashing with different colors. "They are a young species. They do not understand the dangers of space." Ambassador Lisa Chun rose from her seat in the human section. She was a small woman compared to most of the aliens around her, but she carried herself with quiet confidence. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple style, and she wore the blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. "Council members," Lisa. "Syed, I appreciate your concern for human safety, but our merchant vessels are perfectly capable of defending themselves." This statement caused an uproar. The Vorthans laughed, a sound like grinding metal. The Klaxons clicked their mandibles in what might have been amusement. Even the normally polite Deltans swayed in a way that suggested disbelief. "Ambassador Chun," Zeeth Kar said, "with respect, your species has been in space for less than a century. These raiders have been terrorizing the galaxy for much longer. They have weapons and tactics that your people cannot imagine." Lisa remained calm. "We understand the risks. Captain Morrison and his crew are well-trained professionals. They know what they are doing. But why take such chances?" asked the Zephyrian. "Our escort ships are available. They have proven effective against raider attacks. We prefer to handle our own security, Lisa replied. It is more efficient this way. The Borvek delegate stood again. Efficient? You call sending defenseless cargo ships into raider territory efficient? This is madness. Our ships are not defenseless, Lisa said quietly. Then where are your weapons? Sethkar demanded. Our intelligence reports show human cargo vessels carry minimal armament. They have basic shields and simple defensive systems. Nothing that could stop a raider attack. Lisa smiled slightly. Appearances can be deceiving. This is not a game, Ambassador. Sethkar's voice grew louder. When Captain Morrison's ship is destroyed, his death will be on your hands. The Council will not be responsible for human stubbornness. The Council's concern is noted, Lisa replied. But Earth's position remains unchanged. We will continue to operate our merchant fleet as we see fit. The debate continued for hours. Other species shared stories of raider attacks and the importance of working together. They offered military support, advanced weapons, and tactical advice. The humans politely declined everything. As the meeting ended, Sethkar approached Lisa privately. Your people are making a mistake, he said. Pride is a luxury that space does not forgive. The raiders will teach you this lesson, but the cost will be high. Lisa looked up at the tall alien. Ambassador, humans have survived many dangerous situations. We have learned to adapt and overcome. This situation is no different. The void of space is not like your home planet, Sethkar warned. Here, mistakes are permanent. There is no rescue, no second chances. Your Captain Morrison is sailing into certain death. Time will tell, Lisa said simply. As the aliens left the council chamber, many shook their heads in disappointment. The humans were clearly too proud to accept help. It was a common failing among young species. They would learn humility after losing a few ships. What none of them realized was that the humans had already learned their lessons. They had studied every raider attack, analyzed every tactical report, and prepared for this moment. Captain Morrison was not sailing into certain death. He was sailing into a trap. But he was not the prey. 3 days later, the cargo ship Stellar Wanderer left Earth's orbital shipyards. To anyone watching, it looked like a typical human freighter. Boxy, practical, and apparently defenseless. Captain Morrison sat on the bridge, reviewing his flight plan one final time. His destination was the Nebula of Sorrows, where 7 merchant vessels had vanished in the past month. The most dangerous place in known space. The perfect hunting ground for the Crimson Void Raiders. Morrison smiled as he gave the order to jump to hyperspace. The hunt was about to begin. The Stellar Wanderer dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nebula of Sorrows. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the swirling purple and red clouds that filled the view screen. The nebula was beautiful and deadly, full of electromagnetic storms that could fry a ship's electronics in seconds. Sensors are picking up interference from the nebula, reported Navigation Officer Beth Sanders. She was a young woman with short blonde hair and steady hands. We will be flying blind once we enter the storm clouds. That works both ways, Morrison replied. If we cannot see them, they cannot see us clearly either. The Stellar Wanderer looked like every other human cargo ship. It was a long rectangular vessel with cargo containers attached to its hull. The ship was painted in the standard gray and white colors of Earth's merchant fleet. Nothing about it suggested danger or military capability. Morrison was a tall man in his 40s with graying hair and calm blue eyes. He had been flying cargo runs for 20 years, but this mission was different. He checked his watch and nodded to his communications officer. Any word from Fleet Command? He asked. Communications Officer Carl Rogers was a quiet man who rarely spoke unless necessary. Priority message came in an hour ago, sir. Admiral Sullivan sends her regards. The package has been delivered. Morrison allowed himself a small smile. Acknowledged. Continue monitoring all frequencies. The ship entered the nebula slowly, its engines running at minimal power. The electromagnetic storms immediately began interfering with their sensors. Lightning flashed through the colored clouds, creating a light show that would have been beautiful under other circumstances not far away. Hidden deep in the nebula's heart, another ship watched and waited. The Devourer was 3 times the size of the human cargo vessel. Its black hull was covered in weapon ports and armor plating. Spikes and blade-like projections gave it the appearance of a giant space predator. On the bridge of the Devourer, Warlord Vexthul studied the approaching human ship. He was a typical Skarn warrior, standing over 7 feet tall, with gray skin and prominent bone ridges. His eyes were yellow and cold, and scars covered his face from countless battles. "The humans enter our web," he growled to his second-in-command. "They fly blind into our territory like all the others." Sub-Commander Kraltuk nodded eagerly. He was younger than Vexthul, but just as brutal. "Their ship matches our intelligence reports. Minimal weapons, weak shields, small crew. They will be easy prey." Vexthul studied the tactical display. A human vessel showed no signs of advanced technology. Its heat signature was consistent with a standard cargo hauler. Its engine output was low, suggesting it was not built for speed or combat. "How many humans are aboard?" he asked. 32, according to our scans," Kraltuk replied. "Standard crew for a vessel of this size." Vexthul had attacked dozens of ships in the past year. Most carried crews of hundreds or thousands. 32 beings seemed laughably small for such a large vessel. These humans were either very efficient or very foolish. "They navigate the nebula with skill," observed the Devourer's tactical officer. "Their pilot knows these storm patterns." "All prey learn the paths through dangerous territory," Vexthul replied. "It does not help them when the predator is waiting at the end of the path." The Stellar Wanderer continued deeper into the nebula. On the human ridge, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had drilled for this situation countless times. Every person knew their role. "Storm intensity is increasing," reported Beth Sanders. "Recommend we alter course to avoid the worst turbulence." "Negative," Morrison said firmly. "Maintain current heading. We go where we plan to go." Chief Engineer Ron Murphy spoke up from his station. "Captain, the engines are handling the electromagnetic interference well. All systems are green." Murphy was a short, stocky man with calloused hands and an easy smile. He had been modifying the Stellar Wanderer's engines for months, making improvements that were not listed in any official report. "Good work, Ron," Morrison replied. "How are our passengers?" "Sleeping soundly," Murphy said with a grin. "They will wake up when we need them." The bridge crew exchanged knowing glances. Anyone listening would assume they were carrying civilian passengers. The truth was very different. Aboard the Devourer, Vexthul watched the human ship navigate through the nebula's most dangerous areas. The vessel moved with confidence, as if its crew knew exactly where they were going. This was unusual, but not unprecedented. Many merchant captains knew the safe routes through hazardous space. "Deploy the hunters," Vexthul ordered. 12 fighters in attack formation. We will test their defenses before the main assault. The Devourer's launch bays opened, releasing a swarm of small, fast attack ships. Each fighter carried enough firepower to cripple a merchant vessel. Together, they could destroy almost anything short of a military warship. The Raiders' fighters moved through the nebula like sharks through dark water. They used the storm clouds for cover, approaching the human ship from multiple directions. Their weapons were charged and ready. On the Stellar Wanderer, the sensor operator detected movement in the surrounding space. "Captain, I am reading multiple contacts." Small, fast-moving objects approaching from several vectors. Morrison nodded calmly. How many? 12 contacts confirmed. They are moving in attack formation. Battle stations, Morrison ordered quietly. Bridge lights dimmed to red. Throughout the ship, crew members moved to their positions with practiced precision. But something strange happened. Instead of running to defensive positions, many crew members headed toward what appeared to be cargo. Containers. Weapon systems online, reported Danny Martinez from the tactical station. He was a young man with dark hair and steady nerves. All batteries charged and ready. Defensive systems active, added Security Chief Amy Foster. She was a woman in her 30s, with sharp eyes and quick reflexes. Countermeasures deployed. The Stellar Wanderer continued on its course, apparently unaware of the approaching danger. To the raiders, it looked like a helpless cargo ship stumbling into their trap. Vexthal watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The human vessel showed no signs of evasive action. Its engines maintained steady power, and its course remained unchanged. The humans are either very brave or very stupid, he said. Perhaps they have not detected our fighters, suggested Kraltuk. All prey fight when cornered, Vexthal replied. We will soon see what these humans are made of. The raider. Fighters closed to attack range. Their weapons locked onto the human ship's engine sections and cargo bays. In moments, the Stellar Wanderer would be crippled and helpless. All units commence attack, the lead raider pilot commanded. 12 fighters opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams and missile trails lit up the nebula as the assault began. The weapons struck the human ship's hull with devastating force, but something unexpected happened. The explosions that should have crippled the Stellar Wanderer seemed to have no effect. The ship continued on its course, apparently undamaged. Impossible, breathed Kraltuk. No merchant vessel could survive that attack. Vexthal's eyes narrowed. Scan that ship again. Full spectrum analysis. The Devourer's sensors probed the human vessel more carefully. What they found made no sense. The ship's hull was much thicker than it appeared. Its internal structure was heavily reinforced, and there were energy signatures that had not been there before. Warlord, the tactical officer reported with growing alarm. The human ship is not what it seems. I am detecting weapon systems coming online. Multiple weapon ports are opening along the hull. Vexthal stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The boxy cargo containers attached to the ship's hull were separating and reconfiguring themselves. What had appeared to be simple storage units were revealing themselves as something far more dangerous. Those are not cargo containers, he realized. They are weapons platforms. On the bridge of the Stellar Wanderer, Captain Morrison watched the tactical display with quiet satisfaction. The raiders had taken the bait perfectly. All stations report ready, Amy Foster announced. The packages are awake and hungry. Morrison nodded. Danny, you may begin the demonstration. With pleasure, sir, Martinez replied, his fingers dancing. Across the weapons controls, the Stellar Wanderer's true nature was about to be revealed. The hunt was beginning, but the predator and prey were not what they seemed. The transformation of the Stellar Wanderer was like watching a sleeping giant wake up. The ship's hull plates shifted and slid apart, revealing weapon ports that had been hidden beneath false panels. The cargo containers that had seemed so innocent detached from the main hull and unfolded into sleek attack drones. Danny Martinez sat at his weapons console, watching 12 enemy fighters close in for what they thought would be an easy kill. His fingers moved across the controls with practiced precision. Target lock acquired on all enemy vessels, he reported calmly. Firing solution optimal. Take them down, Captain Morrison ordered. The space around the Stellar Wanderer erupted in brilliant flashes of light. Plasma cannons emerged from hidden ports and began firing with deadly accuracy. The attack drones, now fully deployed, swarmed toward the Raider fighters like angry wasps. The first Raider pilot died before he understood what was happening. His fighter simply vanished in a ball of superheated gas as a plasma bolt struck his engine core. The second pilot had time to scream before a human drone rammed his cockpit at high speed. Evasive action! The remaining Raiders shouted over their communications. "It's a trap. The cargo ship is armed." But the human weapons had been designed for exactly this situation. The plasma cannons tracked their targets with computer precision, leading the enemy fighters and firing where they would be, not where they were. The attack drones moved with impossible agility, changing direction in ways that would have killed any organic pilot. Within 30 seconds, half the Raider squadron was destroyed. The survivors tried to retreat, but the human drones pursued them relentlessly. One by one, the enemy fighters fell to the superior technology and tactics of their opponents. Aboard the Devourer, Warlord Vexthul watched his attack squadron die with growing fury and confusion. The humans had turned his ambush into a slaughter. Worse, they had done it with what appeared to be a simple cargo vessel. "How is this possible?" demanded Sub-Commander Krawltuk. "Our intelligence said human merchant ships were defenseless." "Our intelligence was wrong," Vexthul growled. "Or the humans have been lying to everyone, including the Galactic Council." The tactical display showed the human ship continuing its course through the nebula. It had destroyed 12 Raider fighters without even slowing down. Now it was heading straight for the Devourer's position. "They know we are here," Vexthul realized. "This was planned from the beginning. Should we retreat?" asked the tactical officer. Vexthul's yellow eyes blazed with anger. "Retreat? From a single human cargo ship? Never. Bring us to full combat readiness. We will show these humans what happens when they challenge the Crimson Void Raiders." The Devourer was a massive warship, designed for one purpose: to destroy everything in its path. Its hull was covered in heavy armor plating that could withstand the combined firepower of an entire fleet. Its weapon systems could crack the surface of a planet. "All weapon systems online," reported the tactical officer. "Main batteries charged and ready." "Ramming speed," Vexthul ordered. "We will crush them like the insects they are." The great warship's engines roared to life, pushing the massive vessel through the nebula's storm clouds. Lightning flashed across its hull as it charged toward the human ship. On the bridge of the Stellar Wanderer, Captain Morrison watched the approaching dreadnought with calm interest. The Devourer was exactly what he had expected: a brute force, weapon designed to overwhelm enemies through sheer firepower. "Tactical assessment, Danny?" Morrison asked. Dot Martinez studied his displays carefully. "The enemy vessel is heavily armed and armored. Conventional weapons will not penetrate their main hull, but they have weaknesses, such as their sensor arrays are external. If we can blind them, they will have trouble targeting us. Also, their size works against them in this environment. They cannot maneuver quickly in the nebula's electromagnetic storms." Morrison nodded. "What about their weapons?" "Powerful but slow to track. They are designed for ship-to-ship combat at long range. If we can get close enough, they will have trouble hitting us." "Then we get close," Morrison decided. "Amy, are our people ready?" Security Chief Foster checked her tactical display. "All combat teams are in position. Emergency protocols are armed and ready." Throughout the ship, the crew prepared for battle in ways that would have surprised any observer. The Stellar Wanderer carried far more than 32 people. Hidden compartments opened throughout the vessel, revealing additional crew members. In advanced combat armor, these were not ordinary merchant sailors. They were specially trained soldiers who had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment in human space. Each one was an expert in zero-gravity combat, ship-to-ship boarding actions, and survival in hostile environments. Engineering. How are our modifications holding up? Morrison asked. Chief Engineer Murphy's voice came over the comm system. All systems are running smoothly, Captain. The inertial dampeners are holding steady at 200% normal capacity. The engines are ready to give you anything you need. Murphy had spent months modifying the Stellar Wanderer's propulsion system. The ship could now accelerate and maneuver in ways that should have been impossible for a vessel of its size. The modifications were not in any official report, and no other species knew they existed. The two ships closed on each other through the swirling nebula. The Devourer fired first, its main batteries lighting up the space between them with beams of destructive energy. The shots were perfectly aimed and should have vaporized the human vessel. Instead, the Stellar Wanderer simply was not there when the weapons arrived. The ship had moved at the last possible second, dodging the attack with impossible grace. It spun end over end, its hull passing within meters of the deadly energy beams. Impossible. Vexthal roared. No ship that size can maneuver like that. But the Stellar Wanderer was not finished. As it dodged the Devourer's weapons, it returned fire with surgical precision. Its plasma cannons targeted the Raider ship's external sensors, destroying them one by one. Within seconds, the massive warship was flying blind. "Sensors are down," reported the Devourer's tactical officer. "We are targeting by guess and instinct." The human ship pressed its advantage. It moved around the larger vessel like a dancer, staying in the Devourer's blind spots while continuing to target critical systems. The Raider ship's communication arrays, weapon targeting computers, and external cameras were systematically destroyed. Vexthal realized he was fighting an opponent who understood warfare in ways his people had never imagined. The humans did not try to match his firepower. Instead, they used speed, precision, and intelligence to turn his own strength against him. "All weapons, fire at will," he commanded. "Saturate the area with energy." The Devourer's guns fired in all directions, filling the space around it with deadly energy. It was a desperate tactic, but it worked. One of the plasma beams struck the Stellar Wanderer's hull, causing significant damage. Warning lights flashed on the human bridge. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Beth Sanders. "We are losing atmosphere." "Damage to the main engine," added Murphy over the comm. "Our power output is down to 60%. Captain Morrison studied the tactical display. The Devourer was wounded, but still dangerous. His own ship was damaged and could not continue the fight indefinitely. "Amy, initiate Protocol 7, he ordered quietly. Foster's eyes widened slightly. "Sir, are you sure?" "Once we begin, there is no turning back." "I am sure," Morrison replied. "Signal all hands. We are going to finish this." Throughout the ship, crew members received the signal they had trained for, but hoped never to use. Protocol 7 was the most dangerous tactic in the human playbook. It required total commitment and accepted the possibility of complete loss. But humans had learned long ago that sometimes the only way to win was to be willing to lose everything. The Stellar Wanderer began to change course, turning directly toward the Devourer's massive hull. To anyone watching, it looked like the human ship was preparing to ram the enemy vessel in a final, desperate attack. Vexthal saw the human ship approaching and smiled grimly. "They think to ram us? Their ship will be destroyed against our armor." But Captain Morrison had something very different in mind. The ram was not meant to destroy the enemy's ship. It was meant to destroy both ships, and in that destruction, create an opportunity for something even more dangerous, that the hunt was about to enter its final phase. The Stellar Wanderer turned directly toward the Devourer's massive hull. Captain Morrison sat in his command chair, watching the distance between the two ships shrink rapidly. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency, preparing for what most species would consider an act of suicide. "All hands, this is the captain," Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. "Protocol 7 is now in effect. Repeat, Protocol 7 is active. All personnel to emergency stations." Throughout the ship, crew members moved to positions that had been drilled into them through months of training. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically, dividing the vessel into dozens of independent sections. Life support systems switched to backup power, and artificial gravity was reduced to minimum levels. On the bridge, the artificial intelligence that controlled many of the ship's systems began speaking in the calm, measured voice of Dr. Patricia. Wells, the AI had been programmed with the personality of a famous Earth scientist, and her voice was designed to keep crews calm during crisis situations. "Protocol 7 initiated," the AI announced. "All sections report ready for emergency separation. Time to impact, 45 seconds." Chief Engineer Murphy's voice came over the com from the engine room. "Captain, the modifications are holding. Structural integrity is at maximum. We are ready for impact. Danny, status of our weapons?" Morrison asked. Martinez checked his displays. "All remaining plasma cannons are charged and ready. Attack drones are positioned for post-impact operations." "Amy, how are our people?" Security Chief Foster was monitoring dozens of displays showing crew members throughout the ship. "All combat teams are sealed and ready. Emergency pods are armed and prepared for launch." Morrison nodded. A Stellar Wanderer was not just a disguised warship. It was also designed to be the most survivable vessel in human space. Every section could operate independently if necessary. Every crew member was trained to fight and survive in the vacuum of space. Aboard the Devourer, Warlord Vexthul watched the approaching human ship with grim satisfaction. The humans had finally revealed their true nature. Desperate warriors who would die before accepting defeat. "Let them come," he growled. "Their sacrifice will be meaningless. Our armor will crush their ship like an egg." Sub-Commander Kraltuk was less confident. "Warlord, why would they ram us? It makes no tactical sense. They must have a plan." "Their plan is to die gloriously," Vexthul replied. "It is the way of warriors. I can respect that, even if they are humans." The tactical officer was studying his displays with growing concern. "Sir, the human ship is not decelerating. They are actually accelerating toward us." "Of course they are," Vexthul said. "They want to cause maximum damage." But the officer shook his head. "No, sir. They are accelerating beyond their ship's normal capabilities. Their engine output is impossible for a vessel of that size." Vexthul looked at the tactical display more carefully. The human ship was indeed moving faster than it should have been able to. Its energy readings were off the charts. Either their engines were about to explode, or they had technology that was far more advanced than anyone realized. "Time to impact. 10 seconds, announced the AI aboard the Stellar Wanderer. Morrison gripped his chair. "All hands, race for impact." The collision between the two ships was spectacular. The Stellar Wanderer struck the Devourer's hull with tremendous force, its reinforced bow section driving deep into the raider vessel's armor. The impact sent shockwaves through both ships, causing massive structural damage. But the human ship had been designed for this moment. Its hull was filled with collapsible sections that absorbed the impact energy. Its crew compartments were protected by advanced shock-absorbing materials. Most importantly, its core sections were designed to separate from the main hull during extreme trauma. The Devourer, by contrast, was built like a fortress. Its thick armor could withstand weapons fire, but it was not designed to absorb the kinetic energy of a high-speed collision. The impact created a massive hole in the warship's hull, exposing dozens of internal compartments to the vacuum of space. Hull breach on decks 4 through 12, screamed the Devourer's damage control officer. We are losing atmosphere throughout the forward sections. Vexthal picked himself up from the deck, his yellow eyes blazing with fury. Damage report. Severe structural damage to the forward hull. Multiple system failures. We are losing power to the main weapons. And the human ship? Destroyed, sir. The impact tore their vessel apart. But even as the officer spoke, something impossible began to happen. The wreckage of the Stellar Wanderer was not floating dead in space. Instead, dozens of small objects were detaching from the debris and moving with purpose. What are those? Kraltalk demanded. The tactical officer enlarged the display. They appear to be ... escape pods. But they are moving under their own power. The escape pods were actually advanced combat units that had been hidden throughout. The human ship. Each one was a miniature warship, equipped with weapons, life support, and sophisticated electronics. They were designed to continue fighting even after their mothership was destroyed. Aboard one of these pods, Security Chief Amy Foster checked her systems. The pod was cramped but functional, with enough supplies for several days of independent operation. More importantly, it was armed with weapons that could penetrate the Devourer's damaged hull. "This is Foster to all units," she broadcast on the emergency frequency. "Operation Wasp's Nest is now active. Primary target is the enemy. Bridge. Secondary targets are engineering and life support." The human combat pods moved toward the crippled Devourer like a swarm of angry insects. They were small enough to avoid the ship's remaining weapons and fast enough to dodge defensive fire. Most importantly, they were operated by humans who had trained for exactly this situation. "Enemy contacts approaching," shouted the Devourer's tactical officer. Multiple small vessels, moving at high speed. Vexthal stared at the display in disbelief. The humans had not only survived the collision, they were continuing to attack. Their ship had been destroyed, but they were still fighting. "How many?" he demanded. 67 confirmed contacts. "They are targeting our weak points." The first human pod reached the Devourer's hull and immediately began cutting through the damaged armor with plasma torches. Within minutes, Foster and her team had created an entry point and were boarding the enemy vessel. Inside the Devourer, the raiders found themselves facing an enemy they had never encountered before. The humans moved through the ship's corridors in small teams, using advanced tactics and superior equipment. They did not try to hold territory or capture key positions. Instead, they focused on destroying critical systems and eliminating enemy personnel. Foster's team reached the ship's primary computer core and began planting explosive charges. Other human teams targeted the power generators, life support systems, and communications equipment. Within an hour, the great warship was being systematically destroyed from within. "Intruders on all decks," reported the Devourer's security chief. "They are moving through the ship at will. Our people cannot stop them." Vexthal realized he was facing a completely new form of warfare. The humans had turned the destruction of their own ship into a weapon. They had sacrificed their vessel to deliver boarding parties directly into his stronghold. "How many humans are there?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. They appear to be everywhere at once." The truth was that the Stellar Wanderer had carried over 200 specially trained soldiers, all hidden in compartments throughout the ship. When the vessel was destroyed, they had simply moved to their backup positions and continued the fight. "Sir?" called the communications officer. "We are receiving a transmission from the human leader." Morrison's voice came over the speaker system. He was broadcasting from one of the combat pods, his voice calm and professional. "Warlord Vexthal, this is Captain Morrison. I am offering you one chance to surrender." "Surrender?" Vexthal roared. "You have destroyed your own ship. You are trapped in space with no hope of rescue. On the contrary, Morrison replied, we are exactly where we want to be. Your ship is disabled, your weapons are offline, and your crew is being systematically eliminated. You have 1 minute to order your people to lay down their arms. Vexthul looked around his damaged bridge. Half his crew was dead or wounded. The ship's systems were failing one by one. And somewhere in the corridors below, human soldiers were hunting his remaining people. For the first time in his life, the great Skarn warlord began to understand what it meant to be afraid. The 1 minute that Captain Morrison had given Warlord Vexthul passed in tense silence. On the bridge of the crippled Devourer, the great Skarn warrior stared at the tactical displays, showing human forces moving through his ship like ghosts. His pride warred with his survival instincts. 30 seconds remaining. Morrison's voice announced over the communication system. Sub-Commander. Kraltalk looked at his leader with desperate eyes. Warlord, perhaps we should consider never. Vexthul roared, his yellow eyes blazing. The Crimson Void Raiders do not surrender to anyone, especially not to humans. Time expired, Morrison said simply. What happened next would be remembered in Raider legend for generations. The human soldiers did not simply continue their assault. Instead, they demonstrated why their species had earned a reputation for creative problem-solving. Security Chief Foster's team had reached the ship's main reactor chamber. Instead of destroying it, they began carefully disconnecting power conduits. Within minutes, the Devourer's lights went out, leaving the ship incomplete. Darkness. Other human teams used the confusion to capture key positions throughout the vessel. They moved with night vision equipment and advanced communications, coordinating their actions with military precision. The raiders, fighting blind and confused, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Emergency power to the bridge. Vexthul commanded. Emergency generators are offline, reported his engineering officer. The humans have sabotaged our backup systems. In the darkness, Vexthul heard the sound of his bridge doors being cut open. Sparks flew as plasma torches carved through the reinforced metal. Within moments, armed figures in advanced combat armor entered the bridge. Warlord Vexthul, said a calm female voice. I am Security Chief Foster of the Earth vessel Stellar. Wanderer, you are under arrest for piracy, murder, and crimes against galactic commerce. Vexthul could barely see the humans in the emergency lighting, but their weapons were clearly visible. Red targeting lasers painted dots across his chest. He was surrounded and outnumbered. How? He whispered. How did you know we were here? Foster's helmet retracted, revealing her face. We have been tracking the Crimson Void Raiders for months. Every attack, every stolen cargo manifest, every survivor report. We knew you would be here because we wanted you to be here. This was all planned, Vexthul realized. From the beginning, Foster confirmed. The Galactic Council meeting, Captain. Morrison's flight plan, even our apparent refusal of escort services. Everything was designed to bring you out of hiding. The truth hit the Skarn warlord like a physical blow. You used yourselves as bait. We used our ship as bait, Foster corrected. We are the trap. As Foster's team secured the bridge, similar scenes played out throughout the Devourer. Human soldiers had captured or eliminated the entire raider crew with minimal casualties on either side. The great warship that had terrorized merchant vessels across 3-star systems was now under human control. Captain Morrison's voice came over the communication system again. All units, this is Morrison. Sweep and clear operations are complete. The vessel is secure. 2 days later, rescue ships began arriving at the Nebula of Sorrows. The first to reach the battle site was a Galactic Council patrol vessel commanded by Steve Collins, a veteran Earth officer who had been serving with the Allied fleet. Collins stood on his bridge, staring at the impossible scene before him. The Massive Devourer hung dead in space, its hull scarred and broken. Floating nearby were dozens of human combat pods, their occupants calmly waiting for pickup. "This is Commander Collins to all vessels in the area," he broadcast. "Please identify yourselves and report your status." Morrison's voice came back immediately. "This is Captain Narration of the merchant vessel Stellar Wanderer. We have completed our cargo delivery and are ready for extraction." Collins looked at his tactical officer in confusion. "Cargo delivery? What cargo?" "Justice," Morrison replied simply. "The rescue operation took several hours. Human combat teams transferred there. Prisoners to secure holding cells aboard the council ships. The raider vessel was searched and documented, revealing evidence of dozens of attacks and hundreds of murders. When Ambassador Zethkar arrived aboard his flagship, he found a situation that challenged everything he thought he knew about humans. The Great Devourer, the ship that had been the nightmare of merchant captains across the galaxy, was floating helpless in space. Its crew was in custody, and its weapons were destroyed. "How many human casualties?" he asked Commander Collins. 17 wounded, none seriously," Collins reported. "No fatalities." Zethkar's four eyes widened in disbelief. "They destroyed the most feared raider ship in the galaxy and suffered no deaths?" "The Stellar Wanderer was specifically designed for this mission," Collins explained. "Every system, every crew member, every piece of equipment was chosen to maximize survivability while delivering maximum combat effectiveness. But their ship was destroyed. The ship served its purpose," Collins said. "It delivered the real weapon to the target." "Which was?" "The crew." Later, aboard the council flagship, Zethkar met with the captured warlord Vexthul. The proud Skarn warrior sat in a holding cell, his head in his hands. The defeat had broken something inside him. "I do not understand," Vexthul said quietly. "We had every advantage. Superior firepower, heavier armor, a larger crew. How did they defeat us so completely?" Zethkar considered the question carefully. "They fought differently than anyone expected. While you were trying to destroy their ship, they were trying to capture yours. But why destroy their own vessel? It makes no sense." "It makes perfect sense if your goal is not to win a ship battle, but to eliminate a threat," Zethkar explained. "They sacrificed one ship to capture yours and end your raids permanently." Vexthul looked up with his yellow eyes. "These humans are not like other species." "No," Zethkar agreed. "They are not." The final revelation came during a closed session of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Lisa Chun stood before the assembled representatives, her calm demeanor unchanged despite the dramatic events. "The Earth government wishes to inform the Council that the Crimson Void Raiders are no longer a threat to galactic commerce," she announced. "How many ships did you lose in this operation?" asked the Borvac delegate. "One," Lisa replied. "And how many raiders escaped?" "None." The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. A single human vessel had eliminated an entire raider fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for months. "Ambassador Chun," Zethkar said slowly, "when we offered escort services to your merchant vessels, you said human ships could defend themselves. Were you telling us that every human cargo ship is actually a warship?" Lisa smiled slightly. "Not every ship, Ambassador, but enough of them." "How many?" pressed the Zephyrian representative. "Enough," Lisa repeated. The truth, which she did not share with the Council, was that Earth's entire merchant fleet had been designed as a distributed military force. Every cargo ship carried hidden weapons and trained soldiers. Every trade route was a potential patrol zone. Every merchant captain was prepared to hunt pirates and raiders. Humanity had learned a fundamental truth about space: the line between civilian and military operations was an artificial distinction that other species maintained out of tradition. Humans had abandoned that distinction in favor of effectiveness. Will this change your position on escort services? Zethkar asked. We appreciate the Council's concern, Lisa replied diplomatically. But as I said before, we prefer to handle our own security. As the Council session ended, representatives from dozens of species found themselves reconsidering everything they thought they knew about the newest members of the galactic community. The humans had not just refused help, they had demonstrated that they did not need it. In the weeks that followed, attacks on merchant vessels dropped dramatically across all 3 star systems. Word spread quickly through the criminal underworld. Human ships were not easy prey. They were predators disguised as prey, waiting for the unwary to make the mistake of attacking them. Captain Morrison, now commanding a new vessel identical to the Stellar Wanderer, filed another flight plan through dangerous space. When offered escort services, he politely declined. Some species were slow learners. Others adapted quickly to the new reality. But all of them learned the same lesson eventually. When humans said they could take care of themselves, they meant it. And when they traveled through space without escorts, it was not because they were brave or foolish. It was because they were the escort. The galaxy was a safer place for honest merchants, and a much more dangerous place for those who would prey upon them. The raiders of space had discovered why humans never needed protection. They were the protection.